Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on what part of the world you are in. Welcome to MVP Office Hours. My name is Dale Ziegler. Normally we have Jared Kingston and Jackie Travieso running this along with me as well, but Jackie is taking some very well-earned vacation today, and Jared is at a company planning meeting, so it is just me today. You can always follow MVP Office Hours on Twitter at MVP Office Hours. And officehours.info will always take you to the MVP Office Hours Success Community Group where you can post questions during any time when we're not running this, and then hopefully circle back. And once we do get to MVP Office Hours, this lovely first and third Friday of every month, it gives us something to chat about and address. On the right there is a handful of community events and Salesforce events coming up. Texas Dreamin', of course, coming up in about a month in Austin. Midwest Dreamin', near and dear to my heart, is in August in Chicago. And then that following weekend, Witness Success for the Women in Technology groups. You can always hop on to salesforce.com/events to find out about any of the world tours. There's the Global Lightning Tours, Trailhead DX, all of the Salesforce events, and then, of course, Dreamforce, the big show, November 6th through 9th in this lovely little town called San Francisco. If you've never been, please go. If you've never been to Dreamforce, please go. It is an amazing time. I'm also running the tech by myself, so please forgive me for any delays. There we go. So as I mentioned, we do this on the first and third Fridays of every month. It's intended to be an open Q&A discussion. While we say there is no such thing as a bad question, there might be some more detailed, in-depth questions about very specific use cases that we may say, we can crack that question open, but maybe it's better served offline. We're more than happy to do that after hours, but there is no such thing as a bad question. If this is your first day, if this is your 1,000th day in the Salesforce ecosystem, your question's a good one, and don't be afraid to ask. We also have a chat panel that if you don't want to speak up on the call, you can ask your question via chat, and we can address it that way as well. We are recording this, and as soon as ReadyTalk makes it available, we'll post it to the community, the MVP Office Hours Success Group, as well as Twitter. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Please mute yourself until you're ready to speak up, just because sometimes we can catch that errant background noise or, the things that happen on conference calls. We've all had them happen before. If you want to ask a question, there is a hand raise mechanism in ReadyTalks. Just go ahead and click raise hand. And then when you do speak, please announce who you are and get into your question. And like I said, everyone is welcome to share their experiences. This is not a MVP-only answering session. If anybody on the call knows the answer to the question that's asked, please contribute. We're here to have a dialogue. And also down there at the bottom, we just released this a couple of weeks ago, is a survey for you, the attendees. bit.ly/MVPOH survey, and Bitly loves case sensitivity, so capitalized capitals, lowercase the lowers, and I'll also post a link to that in the success group if you haven't taken it yet. So today I'm very happy to introduce our special guest, Mr. James Gerke out of Durham, North Carolina. He's been in Salesforce since 2008 and has many experiences to speak on. James, if you want to give yourself a minute or two intro, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. So as you mentioned, I've been working kind of in Salesforce since 2008. In fact, my first interaction with Salesforce was actually working at Salesforce Premier Support. And I did that from 2008 till about 2015. I now work for a Salesforce partner doing more Salesforce stuff. So also a good thing. A lot of the echo there. Fantastic. Recently, I do want to give a shout out to the Mentorship Central program that I run with a partner, Sean Lee. And basically what we do with the Mentorship Central program is give you an opportunity to volunteer as a mentor or volunteer as a mentee or both, and you can come in and get connected with somebody who is exactly what you're looking for in a mentor, exactly what you're looking for in a mentee. And the platform allows you to kind of self-serve and self-select in that sense, give you a wide, broad concept there. So if you're thinking of giving back into the Salesforce community, here's an opportunity to do that.
Well, fantastic. Thank you, James. And so, who has the first question? This is now where we open it up to everyone. And I already have a question in chat if nobody else has a question. So. Don't be shy.
Well, I say maybe we do the chat question then.
Yeah. All right. We will do that then. So we'll start with Christy because we just had another one come up. Christy, why don't you go ahead and unmute and ask.
Hello, how are you?
Fantastic. Hi, Christy.
We're all good.
So I have been tasked with rolling out Live Agent, and it seems super straightforward, which makes me frightened. So we've already got the agents in the console working cases so that they're kind of comfortable when the chats become a part of that, since you have to interact with them through console. But I was just curious if there's any known pitfall things that I should keep an eye out for to be successful rolling that
out. There was a few years ago. So when Live Agent was first coming in, and I haven't particularly had any experience with it in about the last year and a half, but there were a few kind of gotchas that we kind of had with Live Agent. There was some routing issues. So Live Agent has a lot of features kind of involved with it. One of them was so the ability for like a manager to see what chats are going on, and the out of the box tool that or the view, I guess, in the console has some, or at least it had about a year and a half ago. I'm assuming it might still be there, but it had some refresh issues. And so one of the things, it just didn't quite pick up the ending of the chat immediately as when the chat was kind of ended. And so sometimes if chats kind of came in too quickly, the data got mixed up a little bit, and then the view sort of didn't know how to happen, so it would like stall out on occasion. That was one of the things that we would see kind of a lot that would come in, where like, you'd have a manager and they'd be like, well, it just stops working after a while. And what that was the data wasn't catching up with itself. It was, chats were just sort of coming in too quickly. But I would imagine, and it kind of depends on your deployment, but if you don't have too many chats at a given time, that particular issue was kind of also a result of kind of allowing agents to have multiple chats going on all at the same time. So if you keep that notion down, like maybe to 1 or 2, you keep that limit, which is something you can configure in Live Agent, then you might have a better success kind of avoiding that kind of scenario. Did that maybe answer your question? or do you want me to expand?
Yeah, no. I mean, in general, it seems pretty much like I've got to figure out how to get the button on the website. That seems like there's some quick text and like the pre-whisper thing so that they can see text in advance. And I mean, we have a decently small team, and if we don't, it's not like every customer is going to jump on it the first day. So, it can kind of progress. I guess it almost seems too easy, sort of, especially like we kind of have like one number that routes to one team. Like it's not a whole complex thing. So I guess I've just need to jump in, but
yeah, and you don't have
like
to
waiting to trick me somewhere.
I'm sure it will. you don't have any like custom logic where you're kind of like having a form fill out and then based on the responses in that form, then it routes you to something specific. Like you just have one entry point.
Yeah, it would just be like, you're reading articles and you can't find the answer, so you open a chat and maybe put in like your name and email, and then it goes to whoever's available.
Yeah. So that's a pretty straightforward implementation, a live agent. I imagine once you get it all set up. There are a couple of things where I can't remember. They're like specialties. So you do have to assign specialties to agents. Otherwise, they don't even though the agent is available in the chat, they won't show up as available to the live agent system if the specialty isn't engaged. So that is one thing. Even if all of your agents are going to even if you don't have any specialties, right? Like all your agents are going to have everything, and it's just going to be open. You still have to assign something to them.
Gotcha. Like at least one general.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's sort of like a record type. Like there's already it has to have at least one record type, right? Type associated, even if it's the master record type. It's got to have something assigned.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, well, something to dive into.
Nice. That's a solid start there. So, Alan Lubin, you have had your hand patiently raised. Do you want to tee up the next question?
Yeah, great. Thank you. So I kind of had two questions to ask the group, and then I guess one specifically for James. I'm still relatively new to Salesforce, just working the trailheads and working on my org and all that. But one of the things where I'm getting a little tripped up is with I guess using the REST API. I seem to be having some issues there, so I was wondering if anyone had any kind of like cheat sheets or kind of rules of thumb. The trailhead information is very good. It's I guess detailed, but for some reason there's like a disconnect there. So maybe it's something I just might need to work with someone offline with. And the other question I had, I guess specifically for James, is in terms of the mentorship. As I was mentioning, I'm kind of still relatively new to Salesforce. That to me, that sounds like that would be a great opportunity to try to get to meet people and bounce ideas off in terms of the mentorship. And then ideally, I would like to be able to mentor others and give them the benefit of the experience that that I'm going through, so that they can kind of avoid pitfalls and get up and running quicker. So those are, I guess, kind of like my two things there.
Cool. How about I answer the mentorship thing first, and then we can kind of open it up to the floor. I'm not a developer, so I have some experience with REST and stuff like that. So happy to try and give you everything I know about it. But if there's any developers on the line, please feel free to chime in. So the Mentorship Central program is was designed exactly kind of what for folks like you. New in the system, but still, looking to a sounding board is actually one of the options that we ask. Hey, what are you looking for mentorship in? Well, I'm looking just for a sounding board, kind of thing. So basically, what it allows you to do is go to the site. There'll be and you can find the site if you just go to the Salesforce community. And you search Mentorship Central and chatter groups, then you'll find our group, and there'll be the link to the mentorship registration site there.
Yep, I'm seeing it now. Thank you.
Fantastic. So basically, what you'll do is you can go there and you can find the list of available mentors, kind of search through them, and once one is you think is good, then you can apply to sort of be mentored by that person. You can also I also recommend, even if you've only been in Salesforce for a month or something, like you have some experience that you can share with somebody, and we've all been in the business world for so long, so it doesn't have to necessarily be Salesforce experience specifically, but look, you have some experience, so you can be a mentor, even a junior mentor in that sense. So I definitely want to kind of encourage that and then go from there. But anyways, so once you get that, you'll be able to register and then find somebody that might work for you, and then you can go from there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Thank you.
Yeah, then if you just go to that the link in the or you're gonna paste it there, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then if you go to the link in the information, that's the actual site where you would register and then find a mentor and whatnot.
Have you Bitly this URL if I were to post it, or should I just go for the full
I
paste
probably should do that. I have not, but I probably should.
No, I mean I'll paste the whole link. I didn't know if you had a shorthand already, so no worries. I will post that later on.
Cool. Did I answer your question about the mentorship, Jeff? Okay, cool. And then, so you were just looking for some general like REST API kind of information?
Yeah.
So I find when I need stuff, the developer documentation is really good in stuff like that. So it's got lots of code samples and really kind of just things. And then, have you ever worked with Workbench?
I have not.
Okay, cool. So I'll if you want to, Dan, if you want to bring up Workbench, basically Workbench has a REST Explorer, so you can do basically gets and posts and stuff like that. You can test your REST endpoints and whatnot there. So it's kind of a tool that Salesforce provides, and
oh wow, did not know about this.
Oh yeah, and this doesn't do just REST stuff. I mean, this is a data tool in and of itself. So it does SQL queries, and you can push and pull data.
Awesome. I believe it allows you to set someone's password to something, if I recall correctly.
It does let you set a password, which is also really cool. Very fantastic for sandboxes when you're doing like training and stuff.
And I'm seeing that REST Explorer right there. Nice.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this Workbench is pretty explicatively amazing. So.
Wow.
Indeed.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, and this is sort of like the extent. Like I'm in my role, like I'm really only ever like testing somebody else's, somebody else's code. So. I don't know how to write code or anything like that. And so if there's any developers on the line, if you have any like specific questions, but I find that this is what I use the best. I've used Postman before as well, which is another tool that you can Google to your heart's delight. Sorry, excuse me. But anyways, so definitely use that tool. This isn't. I'm not sure. I don't think Workbench is. I mean, it's provided by Salesforce, but I don't think it's officially supported. Officially, I think they'll support you in it if you like put a case in with Salesforce or something like that. But I don't think it's an official, provided tool. Data Loader is the only official supported tool, I believe.
Go ahead and get that. All right. So next up, Carlos, you've had your hand raised and you threw a question in the chat as well. So Carlos, the floor is yours.
Well, for full disclosure, I work for James. Hi, James.
Hi, Carlos.
Just reemphasize what James said about the mentorship. You can never stop emphasizing that. I have 1 year experience with Salesforce, and I joined them, and right now with just 1 year experience, I'm being a mentor for 2 people at the same time. So the program really works. Everybody should give it a try. My question for James is something that we do every day and he knows exactly where I'm coming from. What's your best advice to learn communities, because that's something that I really needed, I really wanted.
To learn communities, is that what you're saying?
Yes, besides just the trailhead, anything else that you would recommend? Anything on the partners, training?
Yeah. So, and Carlos, I've said this to you, so I'll say this to kind of just everybody else on the call. I love Trailhead. I like training, and those are all good things. But there's really no substitute for like just getting in and doing it. Just getting in and just playing around with it, and breaking it really. You've probably heard that before. There's just no substitute for experience. But with community specifically, I mean, find something that is interesting to you, that you can maybe reproduce. Maybe it's something in your life. Maybe it's your kid's soccer team or whatever. It doesn't even have to be used, but maybe you just do you create a community for, and then fill in the blank, whatever it is that interests you, and you learn some experience there. So, for example, the Mentorship Central website is a Salesforce community, but it's pretty customized in that sense. It's a template, but it's customized in the sense that I had to learn some CSS in order to get it to look exactly the way I wanted it to, and really kind of work within the construct of the Salesforce template community. And so there was some learning that went involved with kind of just doing that. The other kind of aspect is that, hey, look, it's available out there, and like I said, you just do it. Now, if you want to do like a real project, like something that's actually like beneficial to somebody else, right, instead of just playing around with it and having fun, there's all sorts of nonprofits out there that are always looking for free help, even if it's junior help. And then there's a lot of other projects out there. There's Catching Fire is a good website to kind of find those kind of projects. And then the Success community in and of itself. Hey, post out there. Hey, looking to do some learning. Would love to just volunteer my time with somebody here, who's got projects for me. And I think if you put yourself out there, you're going to have a lot of good response.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, so our next question comes from the chat. So, Lindsay Billings, you posted something in the chat about CRM and ERP sales orders. So go ahead.
Okay. Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
We sure can.
Okay, great. So hopefully I can explain this clearly. So I have a client that uses Kenandy for their ERP system and Salesforce for their CRM side. Now, fundamentally, they rely on the ERP system and not so much on the CRM side. So what they've asked us to do is to implement a sales goal functionality for their outside reps. Now, I've looked into what Kenandy offers with regards to sales goals, but I didn't see anything that fit my client's requirements. So I thought, okay, well, the next best thing would be to utilize Salesforce's forecasting feature, because I know there's you can use quotas with that. However, I would have to figure out a way to connect or train the users to log opportunities, and then as the opportunities become closed, then it maybe automatically, or they have to manually then create the sales order, because they want the sales goals to reflect both invoices and also sales orders by required date. So I just wanted to ask whether you've had any experience with ERP customers, and maybe some good tips on how I can connect the CRM opportunities to the sales orders and invoices. So kind of connecting those two sides and making that a nice fit for the sales reps to use.
Sure. So first, caveat, I've never heard of the Kenandy's ERP system, so I don't know what the capabilities are there. Mm-hmm. But so I'll ask you a few questions, and maybe that'll help formulate the response. So if I'm basically, if we're going to use the Salesforce, specifically for the sales process, so the opportunity capture process, and then once the sale closes, right, then we can track a to whatever goal that we're looking for, like a quota, or if there's other factors. Sometimes there's other factors other than just opportunity close that managers want to track as far as a from a sales goal perspective. So Salesforce is good at tracking that sort of thing. But then so once that happens, at close one, the order is going to go into the ERP system. Is that correct?
So that's what I'm thinking will have to happen, because right now there is no connection between the two. CRM is totally separate from the ERP side. And so I'd have to figure out a way to get those connected to where, a closed one opportunity would then, I guess, automatically, or they just manually have to create the sales order from that closed opportunity.
Yeah, well, hopefully not manually. That's sort of like the last kind of thing you want to do. Right. Because you're going to have a really bad, user adoption kind of issue on your hands with the manual thing. So, do you know if like the Kenandi system has like an API or anything like a REST endpoint, anything like that? Like, does it connect at all? Is it a cloud tool?
Yeah, I think I know that Kenandi's built. I'm almost positive it's built on the platform, the Salesforce platform. So I know
okay. Yeah. So if it's built on the Salesforce platform, then you probably don't need to do any connecting. Then the data is already there, which is great. So if that's, then then you likely can actually just use the tools that are in Salesforce, right? So Apex and Process Builder, Workflow, all that stuff. So if you close one, let's just assume that the ERP system is going to use the standard objects of Salesforce. So it's going to do an order. It'll do assets associated to that order, et cetera, right? So if it's going to use those things, then yeah, you can absolutely use Salesforce's standard tools to sort of say, okay, well, when the opportunity goes close one, automatically create an order with a bunch of assets, et cetera, boom, 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 and then pass in whatever information that's relevant from the opportunity onto the order. Create a contract, all that sort of stuff is kind of standard functionality inside Salesforce. And so if they're if their tool just is already part of the Salesforce platform, then great, you're sort of already there.
Right.
So I'd investigate that, but if it's not, and they don't have an API, then then you're sort of there. The other thing to investigate is, have you ever worked with Zapier?
No, I haven't.
Cool. So they make these things called Zaps, and basically they're custom connections. In other words, so you can say, all right, well, so like a good example is a connection between Salesforce and like Google, so like Google Drive. And so you can kind of pop in and say, all right, well, I want to populate, this Google, a Google sheet with, Salesforce data and back and forth, right? So, and you can do that through these custom Zaps that you set up. So it's a way to kind of connect systems that don't necessarily have a pre-built or a pre-designed way to connect to each other.
Is that kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Automate. I got a link to Automate, it has like .io. Yeah, is that kind of the same thing? I think they use bots. I think they use the term bots, and that was a way to connect.
Sure sounds like the same. I don't have any experience with it. I haven't heard of the Automates, but sure sounds like the same.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, thanks. Thank you for the insight on that. I'll dig in a little bit deeper on the Kenandi side. I'm almost positive, like I said, it's built on the Salesforce platform, but that was helpful. So thank you.
Great.
Awesome. All right. Deepish, you have a question in the chat and your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. My question is related to the versioning control, basically, mainly on the best practices side. So is it the best practice to keep all the metadata in versioning control, and then whenever we want, we can just fire up a new org and put our specific metadata into that, and things come up, right? So is it the best practice, or we should not do that, or how that works?
Well, so are you talking about like just the meta? Are you making a package? So like, are you packaging like a certain type of a certain group of metadata? Like, are you talking about the whole org together?
So just to give you a background, I have only 6 months of experience with Salesforce, but before that, I was pretty much a developer. So versioning control was a thing. So the scenario is we want to fire a new org with the same metadata. That is what we are trying to do. I'm not into packaging as of now, but bringing up a dummy or duplicate org, I'll say.
Sure. So here's how I kind of handle. So Velocity, which is the company I work for, and I'm not in the engineering side, but typically we have a package that we have, and so it's software, let's just say. And so when we make a version of our software, there's a process where we keep a source org. So there's like one source org that is the truth, right? That's where we draw everything off of. And then when we create and we do new versions, we spin up additional orgs off of that source org, right? So that we can kind of say, okay, that is separate, and we can go back to it if we need to for whatever version, or and if we need to like regress or something like that, we can go to that org. So we have a lot of different orgs that are all kept out of there, but there's one org that is sort of the truth. And that's our packaging org. Okay, it's a little different when you have your basically your production and your sandbox model. So there's two kind of schools of thought in this sense, really three. And the third school of thought is, hey, it's cloud software. You can just do it. You can do it live, which is not a great idea.
No, it's not.
Sometimes myself, because it's so easy. But you shouldn't do anything in production. That said, it's easy to do it. So that's the third school of thought, which you shouldn't really participate. Nobody should be participating in that. The two really versioning school of thoughts when it comes to like Salesforce and just your org in general is the first one is to essentially keep production as your truth. In other words, that's what we update. That's what and everything draws off of your production environment. In that instance, you end up refreshing sandboxes a lot, and then you basically are kind of having that as your package. The second one, and which is probably the way you should go, and which is the way large organizations end up migrating to anyways, because there's a lot of risks with keeping production as your truth, which is keeping a full sandbox as your truth, and then pushing from from all your other sandboxes. Those sandboxes push to your full sandbox, and then you do everything in your full sandbox, and then you push to production, which allows production and your full sandbox should always be in sync without ever needing to be refreshed. Okay, and so what that gives you is it gives you two environments to work with, where you can do all sorts of stuff, and then if something breaks, you don't have to regress it in production. You can regress it in the full sandbox, and then go back to an instance like a developer sandbox or something like that, and fix it there. That also allows you to have multiple. The second option, which is really the best one, allows you to have multiple teams working in separate sandboxes on different projects all at the same time. So because you're not stepping on each other's toes, and you're simply just pushing and using your full sandbox as sometimes they're referred to as like a UAT environment, stuff like that. So we recommend the second version, the second option, but there's drawbacks to each one. The second option takes a little bit longer from a project standpoint because you're kind of encompassing a lot more. You also have to encompass your sandbox refresh. All those have to happen on a schedule, and you typically have a deployment schedule involved. Whereas number one, the first one is a little more agile, and you can kind of push things ad hoc and as needed. So there's some benefits and drawbacks to either kind of versioning method.
Correct. So essentially, we should not keep metadata in versioning control. There is no need of it, right?
Well, there are a lot of other software packages to kind of do that. I think if you have you got a lot of code and if the complexity is there, you probably do need like a versioning control software to control the metadata, right? But I don't think that that's really necessary for some of the smaller and medium-sized businesses who aren't, where the complexity just isn't there. And so if you don't have the complexity that requires a versioning control software piece that's sort of outside of Salesforce, then you can manage versioning control with with a sandbox and a production environment kind of conglomeration.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Great. Hope that answered that question.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right. Who's next? Our chat queue is empty. No one's hands are raised. Any questions? Deepish, your hand is raised again. Another question?
Yeah, I thought if nobody's asking, I'll ask a follow-up question on this.
Absolutely.
This production and sandbox methodology is very much applicable in the customer setting, right? But how about the partner setting, wherein an environment hub is there and you can launch demo orgs, right? So they are not really connected. It's very much possible that I don't know the complete functionality of partner system, but what I have read is these demo orgs are not really connected to each other. So you cannot fire up a sandbox and make one org as a source of truth. So how does that work in a partner system or demo orgs specifically?
Yeah. So the Salesforce does provide partners with the ability to kind of spin up demo orgs, and those are all drawn off of. So what we as a partner would provide to Salesforce is like a master org, and then they use that as a template in order to copy basically an org and make a copy of that org. And it comes with, data and all the metadata and configurations as well as like our package, right? And that's kind of common across all the partners. So when you talk about like versioning controlling those, yeah, I'd say there really isn't one unless you have multiple copies of like your source org, and so that would be kind of up to the partner. But those are, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a choice that the partner would have to make, I suppose, to determine whether or not that they want to do different versions of their demo. I would think that if you're selling cloud software, you want to demo the latest version all the time. So maybe you only need one version of your demo. or rather of your demo org. I don't know, does that answer your question?
No. So I am a bit confused actually. So you said that we need to keep one demo version. That's okay. But if we want to take backup of that demo version, what should we do in that case?
Well, I mean, you can. So it's just like a regular Salesforce org. So you can use any one of the metadata backup tools. I mean, you can that are available to you, and then there are a bunch out there. I mean, the easiest of them being just using Eclipse and the Force.com IDE to copy out all of that metadata information. And so you can use that. I mean, it's just a regular Salesforce org, so it's not it's not anything special in that sense.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, thank you very much.
Cool, great.
Alan, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking to see if anyone attended the Atlanta Southeast Streamin' event recently.
And
I know Carlos
when you just had Christy Guzman, one of the main organizers, on. She had to hop off about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, that's too bad. I was just looking to just see what it was like. I couldn't attend myself, unfortunately, but yeah.
Well, Carlos, if you're still on, I know you went. You want to share?
Hello? What happened? I heard my name.
Yeah. The question is, what was Southeast Streamin' like?
Oh, it was pretty good for me. It was the first time, and it was nice to see what people are and then how they react. For me, it was pretty good. I think it was a very valid one, and I recommend anybody that can have the time and the financials to go. I think it adds a lot. So
I'm going to do a cheap plug here because I'm on the core planning team for Midwest Streamin' in August. But and then there's also Texas Streamin' next month in Austin. But the community events, if you ever have a chance to go, really are phenomenal opportunities. And I'm not just saying that because I am on a planning team. I was a fan before I was a player. So there are so many different reasons to go to the community events. In addition to Dreamforce, for some people, for some companies, they can't afford to go to Dreamforce, but the community events are very affordable options, generally driven by the user groups. So, and that you don't have to go to the one in your region. You have people from the Southeast going to Tahoe in January, and now they have an international presence as well. There was Punta Dreamin', where was that? In Uruguay, I believe, a couple of weeks ago. There's one in India that I believe is going to be at the end of August. There was French Touch Dreamin' a few months ago. So London Calling in February. So definitely.
There is one for Spain as well.
And Spain, yes, that's right. Surf Force, Australia is doing one. So I highly recommend the community events to supplement your Dreamforce experience, if at all possible. So who else has any questions? I will also add to my cheap plug then on Midwest Streamin' that call for presenters is open. So if you are A, able to go, and B, interested in presenting, go to MidwestStreamin.com and submit your presentation ideas. You might get the opportunity to present.
Great. Well, is there any more questions out there?
going twice. All right. Well then, if you do think of anything after we cut the call, there is the MVP Office Hours group, which again is officehours.info, and that'll take you to the success group, or MVP Office Hours on Twitter. And while we had this call going, I flipped through my email to find I actually posted the wrong deck, because we do have a special guest for April 21st. Her name's Amber Boaz. She's kind of popular in the community. She will probably be, she has a lot of documentation background and process in general, and is just a really, really amazing person with a wealth of knowledge. So April 21st will actually be Amber Boaz. Then May 5th, Kelly Leslie, newly minted MVP, and Jen Nelson, May 19th. So we have a good queue of MVP special guests coming up, and I highly encourage you to join us for those calls. So James, I want to say thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and anytime you want to come back as a special guest, we're more than happy to have you. And thank you, everybody, for giving us an hour of your Friday. I hope you all have a great weekend, and thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Please stand by.